Do I think that science can provide a correct answer to all things, or are there fundamentally some questions that science can't answer? So here's the thing a lot of people don't understand about science. Science is not a doctrine, science is a process. When people talk about the scientific method, they're talking about that process. And what is that process? Well, first, it starts with observations. You make an observation about the world. Then, you ask a question about that observation. Why do planets revolve around the sun? Why does my dog get happy when he gets food? Why does it hurt when I stub my toe on a door jamb? Then you construct a hypothesis. You basically come up with a possible answer to that question. Is that answer right? You have no idea. But let's continue the process. Now you have to test that hypothesis. So then you have to perform an experiment, and this experiment can be a lot of things. It can include more observations, gathering data, statistical analysis, or it can just involve repeating an action over and over again to see what happens. Then, after you perform your experiment, you analyze your data, and then you draw a conclusion from that data. I see my dog get happy when I feed him. I see him get happy when reward centers in his brain fire, thus food must trigger reward centers in his brain. I have drawn a conclusion. And if that conclusion matches up with my original hypothesis, great. And if it doesn't, then I have to change my hypothesis and test again. And once my results agree with my hypothesis, then I need to communicate those results to other people who are doing science. And any good scientific result is replicable. So then they are going to do the exact same things that I did. And if they get a different answer, then they have to go back to my experiment and say, is this experiment actually producing the data we want? And so they analyze the data, they reduce interference, they minimize variables, and then they try the experiment again. And maybe that contradicts my hypothesis. At which point, I have to change my hypothesis again. But maybe other scientists do the experiment and do their own experiments again and again and get the same data that agrees with my own data. In which case, we could say the observation is likely true and the hypothesis is likely true, and then we can construct a scientific theory about it. So again, theories are not guesses, that's a hypothesis. Theories are what come about when you have tested data over and over again. So in a sense, a theory is our best explanation with the data we have right now. And that can change if we ever figure out new data. So I think if a question can be answered, then this process can answer it. There might be questions that can't be answered, but then they can't be answered, period. This process was developed so that the things that I see, and the things that you see, and the things that our friend sees all agree with each other. This process was made so that any claim has to be tested and verified by multiple people to even begin to entertain that it might be true. So if a question can be answered, then I think science can answer it.